It's March, or actually no, it's April 1st. So happy April Fool's Day. Let's do it. Um, but I'm not doing a prank today. So so we're doing the usual this week. Um, well, yeah, I mean it's been a interesting week. Hanging out with the Huzz. I mean, life been going good. Life been going good. But, you know, just because life is good doesn't mean that I'm going to, not do this. This is still one of my favorite parts of every week. So, going into it, our last week's was about falling for someone. And, let's just do the inverse. Let's talk about getting over someone. So, with moving on and, finally becoming independent from a person you were dependent on for a very long time, it is a rough road. It will be draining. It can be, one of the worst situations, worst, paths you can go down because it just, nothing ever feels right about it, especially coming from relationships, or maybe it's, a family member dies. Moving on is one of the hardest things to do. In a relationship status, someone who you are in a relationship with for an extended period of time, they become such a meaningful part of your lives, especially because you're experiencing a different kind of love than, what you experience every day. With your friends, it's platonic. With your family, it's, I don't know if family is platonic, but you have your family love, you have your friends love, but then you also have the love that you share with romance. And a romantical love is not something that we experience every day of every week of every year of our lives. It can be very new. It can be very, it it's just not a feeling that we are accustomed to, especially at younger ages. In your teens and your 20s, people can go entire, childhoods without any sort of romantical feeling because they've just been unlucky. And especially with your first love, it is going to be one of the hardest things to move on from. Especially if you're coming from a childhood of, maybe it's trauma, or maybe, you just haven't been given a love that you've wanted to give to someone for very long, and then finally someone gives it to you. Whether it be that you're desperate, whether it be, anything, it's still your first love, and first loves mean so much to people. The first person you ever have a romantical relationship with will affect you forever. I mean, it'll affect you for the next relationship and the next and the next and the next. You will eventually move on, but that road is one of the hardest roads to move on from. I would know because I've lived it and I've seen other people live it, and it just crushes people. Moving on is not an easy thing to do, and we've kind of, like I say it a lot, but we've overlooked it. The moving on part is a very, very important part, especially with a breakup. Breaking up and just hating someone, that won't cause you to move on. That'll cause a void in your heart that you think is being repaired by hate, but is really just being a temporary filling to a cavity. To truly move on, you have to accept that the person is gone. You have to accept that this person doesn't want anything to do with you, or, they're just never coming back. And it's hard. It's hard to accept that. It's hard to accept that someone that you cared so deeply about doesn't want anything to do with you anymore. It is crushing. It is soul crushing to hear that, especially coming from a romantical interest. It took me like a year to get over the first girl I ever, really liked. It was a little corny, but it took me a long time. And then the first girl I loved, it took me 2 years to get over her. That's the type of person I am. I'm a lover. I truly give all of my heart into relationships. I truly give all my heart into people that I have a romantical interest in. And, it's come to bite me, but I still do it because I know that when the right person comes, the right person will be deserving of it. But it still took me 2 years to get over the girl that I first loved. And she taught me a lot about how to respect myself, how to respect, the other person in the relationship, how to do all these things. I have no feelings for her anymore, but I can still look at that situation and look at the relationship and know that I've learned things from it. And that is a very healthy point that I've gotten to. It's a very strong point where I'm not missing this person anymore. I can look at it from an outside perspective, or just a further outside the box. I can look at it and know that it was important. It was important to my life. And whether my relationship, my first relationship, wasn't bad. It was really good, and we ended it off on good terms. Other people might not be so lucky. Maybe they got desperate and dated a bad person, or they just didn't date someone that they enjoyed being around. And that's okay. Bad relationships teach you just as much about dating in the future as a good relationship does. You just have to make sure you truly move on from it. Especially with people who have gone through bad relationships, moving on becomes a topic that they've kind of avoided for a long time, or a long portion of their life. And that in itself will cause you to be not who you want to be. It changes you. It will make future relationships really hard because this person you've grown so attached to, you've never really truly dealt with those feelings, and they're going nowhere except back to them. I'm watching it with one of my friends. I mean, she just broke up with her boyfriend because she hadn't dealt with the moving on part from her past relationship. And it sucks because she just ruined or gave up on a relationship that maybe could have worked if she would have dealt with her situation of moving on. It's not fair to both people in the parties to be in a relationship with someone who hasn't moved on yet. But yeah, that's my spiel for the week. Thanks for listening. I'm Lulu. Peace.